Back here on Sun Devil Extra, and let's go to the beach. Why don't we go to the beach? And we'll talk Sun Devil Beach Volleyball. We're joined now by head coach Kristen Glattfelder, coming into her second year at the helm. And if you don't follow this program or you don't remember because the season was a few months ago, let me remind you, it was a historic year for this program a year ago. So first off, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I want to kind of get your thoughts on last year, and we'll touch on that in a moment. But let's talk right now in the present as we're sitting here nearly in November. You're still a couple of months away from the season. I know for a player, this can kind of be a tough part of the year where you're training, you're getting going, but it seems far away. For you as a coach, what is this time of year like?
I mean, this time of the year is about honing in on all the details. You know, like we talk so much about the process and the controllables, and you know, we have a handful of new athletes and just making sure everyone's on the same page fundamentally. You know, we focus a lot on doing things right and making sure that, like, you know, our platforms are really good, our approach, just all the details. And this is a great time to do that because while we get to compete some, you know, this is our time to have small group sessions and like use the competitions that we do have this fall to figure out what we need to work on before spring.
You mentioned some of the newcomers in this year, but I know you have a solid amount of returners, and that's very exciting considering what this team did a year ago, really raising the bar, if you will, for this program in what was your first season. How great is that as a coach to know you have that solid core of returners coming back?
Yeah, I mean, where we were at this time last year, like it's not even recognizable, you know, like we are just in such a different spot. Like we're performing at such a higher level, like the drills that we're able to do to, you know, work on different parts of our game are not totally like just working on basics. It's getting deeper into the game of beach volleyball. And I mean, it's like, we talk about it a lot, where we were a year ago and just having them reflect like, okay, last October, this is where I was, and now to see them where they are right now, like it's super exciting for what we can do this spring.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Let's touch on last year. We mentioned last October, but then when the season came around, you guys were competitive in a big way. 21-10 overall, first ever NCAA tournament appearance, number 12 seed, and really reset the standards, beating ranked opponents. And the Pac-12, of course, was stacked as it was every single year. But those are just a few of the great things you guys were able to accomplish a year ago. When you look back on things now that you've been able to decompress, I know as a coach you got to decompress after the season. You've had that chance to do so. What were some of those most special moments that you'll take from your first season and move forward now into your second?
There was just so many firsts, you know, like first Pac-12 Player of the Week, first All-Americans, first All-Tournament team, first time going to nationals. Probably one of the most special moments, beating Stanford earlier in the year, beating Cal at home, hosting Pac-12 championships, and then being in Dutson Theater and hearing their names called and just looking at the athletes that had been here for, you know, the last 2-3 years and have worked so hard to get to that moment, and just seeing like the excitement on everyone's faces and like knowing like how hard they worked to get there. Because it wasn't, you know, when I was thinking about what my first year could look like, absolutely knew top 20, no brainer. Top 15, very doable. Making it to nationals, very realistic, but also like that's really hard to do in our first year. And like it was all about the work they put in and how mentally tough they were through the course of the season. So it was just really special to see them be able to experience that announcement and then be able to go to the championships.
Yeah, and that was, I think a lot of people were taken back by how quick the turnaround was. But you know, you coming in your first season last year, you mentioned some of those players you had that were there before you had arrived. What's that like as a coach? Because sometimes we hear from a player's perspective coming in, you know, what it's like for the coach coming in. But from your perspective, you coming into this program and having some of those players that have been in Tempe for a year or 2 years already, what's that like to try to gain their trust, if you will, to earn that bond you need to have to be successful? Because clearly you did it very well last year.
I mean, it's a process, and thankfully there was a handful of them that I had recruited when they were juniors, and then there was also some of them that I got to coach because I coached for their club here in Arizona. So I had a relationship with a handful of them, but it's so different. You know, I was somewhere for 8 years, and you just have, like, you get comfortable, and you don't have to think about, like, yeah, you might have 2, 3, 4 freshmen that are coming in that you have to get to know them, but I had to get to know a whole team.
Right.
And it was a big growth moment for me, and it was also like, it was a huge challenge and like breath of fresh air in my coaching career. And just kind of, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. Also very challenging at times to get everyone to like, buy in and understand, like, hey, trust the process, we're going to get there. And I can't even explain like how different going into this year has been, because now we have a year under our belt.
Sure.
And I feel like I know my athletes a lot more, and it's definitely been a lot more calm, I feel like, for all of us. And now they understand the expectations. They understand like how we're going to hold them accountable and what that looks like. And so yeah, this year has been a lot of fun, and just like looking back to last year was a big growth year for me in general.
Being familiar breeds a comfortable sense of nature, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you've got on your side now, being in year 2, I'd say.
Yeah.
You mentioned recruiting and how you had recruited some of the juniors when you came in. Mm-hmm. For Centerville fans that maybe don't, follow beach volleyball a lot when the Olympics aren't going on, or they haven't made it out and seen, one of your matches so far, which you need to when the season starts. I highly recommend it. We'll plug that when the season gets closer. But what is that process like? I think outsiders would say beach volleyball in Arizona. What's happening? How do you recruit in Arizona and find the success that you have?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, Arizona is kind of one of the first states that started high school beach volleyball. California, obviously, Texas, Florida, but Arizona is one of the few that actually has high school beach volleyball. So now they're getting opportunities to play, all year round, and not just for a club, but for high school as well. And there's a lot of talent here. There's some great clubs, some really great coaches that develop their talent well, and it's a huge advantage. It's a great place to recruit.
We had mentioned the Pac-12 and how difficult that was. That was the powerhouse conference in the sport. Really, now you're in a new era, as everyone at ASU is in the Big 12, and a conference that's just introducing beach volleyball into the fold. And so just 4 programs this first year: ASU, of course, U of A, Utah, and TCU. Mm-hmm. So for you at the helm, what do you like about this conference moving forward, and what's this year going to be like specifically with scheduling and everything like that to work with what is a smaller conference?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about beach volleyball is within our conferences, there's not a conference schedule, whereas like with other sports, you have to play every team twice throughout the year. Mm-hmm. We do one big like mid-season event, and then we do our conference championships. And honestly, like, we end up playing all these schools anyways. Great rivalry, obviously, with U of A.
Sure.
TCU is usually a top team, so we like to play them as well. But we just felt like it was so important to get beach volleyball rolling in the Big 12. Big thing is about growing our sport. It was one of the fastest growing sports in NCAA history, and we want to keep that momentum. And, we're like, let's get it started. And maybe there's other schools that have been thinking about starting beach volleyball at their university, and maybe this will, get them to start it a little bit sooner and help keep the momentum of growing beach volleyball in general.
You mentioned the sport growing quickly. Well, your program is growing quickly as well, and I think a lot of people are taking note of that. Coach, we're going to have you back on when the season starts for sure, because and I'm going to have to come out and watch you guys go at it as well. I've never done it yet, so we're going to have to do that.
Yeah. We do host this weekend.
Okay.
A fall event with us, GCU, and U of A. It'll be all day, Saturday and Sunday, from like 8:30, 9 a.m.-ish to like 5 p.m.
Perfect. There you go. Well, we can do it this weekend. Yeah, take a break from college football before the Devils play on Saturday night, and come out and watch some beach volleyball with all the local Arizona schools. Coach Glattfelder, thanks a lot, and best of luck moving forward.
Thanks so much. Appreciate
We'll be back with more after this.